What's up, Whole Christian Church? Hey, just trying to do something a little bit different, and so this is going out on my personal page too. And so if you stumble upon this and you're wondering, hey, what the heck's that guy doing? Just sharing, trying to share with some more friends in some different ways, trying to stay connected with our church. And so if you stumble upon, want to know, hey, what is Conrad up to? This is it, right? And so this is my way of just kind of staying connected with my friends and family, as well as my church. And so taking that journey with me, hopefully, on our time here. What's up, Brandon? Hey, good to see you. Thanks for jumping on here with us. And so we'll see how many people jump on here. And I'm just kind of waiting for a little bit, as we do for those of us who are Holt Christian Church people or Lansing area people, Holt, Michigan area people. Make sure that you reach out today. Give John Shutt a phone call. It's his birthday. And John has done an amazing job running all of our sound stuff for our Sunday services. That it's been crazy because I have no idea what's going on with that. And so between him and Todd, our worship minister, and the team that leads music, John has been instrumental in making sure that our sound gets out there and that you guys are able to hear something that goes out there. And so it's his birthday today. He's I'm not going to tell you how old he is, so I'll let him do that. But if you get a chance, reach out to him and tell him what's up. Tell him happy birthday, and he would really, really appreciate that, I'm sure. But this week, right? And so we'll get started. Sunday, we started we had a discussion as we continued our conversation on what does it mean to be devoted to Jesus, to absolutely fall in love with him so much so that it encourages us on our walk with him, that it changes our life, right? That it actually taking that good news of Jesus begins to impact everything that we do, the way we live, the way we act, the way we think. It just changes everything. It changes the way that we connect with the world around us, that we experience different times and seasons. And I would say that if we're devoted to Jesus, it impacts the way even we talk about stay at home and those kinds of things. And we said this is a kind of a discipleship, or how do we grow as followers? And so we want to be just simply learning how to become devoted is going to help us be better Christians, better followers of Jesus, better disciples, but not in a step pattern, right? And so if you've stuck around with me long enough, you've heard me say that I don't like the idea of discipleship being one step after another, right? You get baptized, and then you start reading your Bible, then you start doing a ministry, then you start doing a small group, then you start, right? That there's a step process. While all of those things may fall into our life of walking with Jesus, I don't, for me, the danger is that if I take one step and I miss the next one, that there's a feeling that I'm falling backwards. And I've struggled with that myself. I have friends who've struggled with it, long conversations. And what I've begun falling to is that I think there's that being devoted to Jesus is much like any other one of our relationships in life, that it's not steps necessarily, but there begins to be ingredients that we begin to dump into, that ingredients that we dump into our life. And the more that we dump those ingredients into our life, the more that God has the ability to kind of mix those up and bake them and bring out this product that is different than what we would have had on our own. And last week we talked about love, right? We said devotion to Jesus begins and ends with love. Both, first of all, his love for us, and then our love for him. Right. And we said there was a question that he asked Peter 3 times. He says, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And I think it's important for us to understand that may be the same way that Jesus communicates with us. I ask more, right? Did you give your tithe this week? Did you participate in a small group? Did you show up to church? All of those things may be important into our relationship, but I don't know if they're the most important thing, or if those begin to be just simply products that come in, or maybe byproducts of our love for Jesus, in much the same way that our other relationships are. And so this week we began talking about some of those products. And if you wanted to, you could always follow along with these videos. We also have questions right here at holtchristian.org/devoted that you can go on there and see them. Hey, Debbie Snyder, Carol, and whoever else is watching. Hey, I can't see all the names, but you guys who are commenting, I can see you. But right, if you wanted to follow along with us, you can find us here. But we have questions that go along with some of these talks that I give as well. If you're interested, great. Use them for your small groups. If you're a Holt Christian person, they would go along well with our sermon. But maybe that first thing that we have to do is first of all, understand that God loves us, and then not be so quick to say what's next. Right, not to take those next steps. Where do I go from here? Right, I don't know if anybody goes to a job and thinks that the next day they're going to be running the place. Right, you don't go from the bagger at the grocery store to being the manager in one day. And I don't know if we ever expect that. Right, I don't know if a 16-year-old who goes and gets a job just so he can have money to put gas in his car is really thinking someday I'm going to be the manager of this grocery store, that I'm going to own this grocery store. And so he's not thinking about taking those next steps. But I think some of you may have witnessed or even seen that some of those baggers or cart pushers that start off at 16 end up being there at 35, 40 years old and actually running the store, maybe move into a regional manager spot where they're running multiple stores. And there's this idea that they've grown and moved on to a different position. But it wasn't because of steps. It was because they simply lived inside of that environment. And so the question that I have today, right, is not necessarily how do you take the steps, but how do you move in your relationship with Jesus? And maybe the biggest question is this. Right, this question that I'm put up right here. If I can, one of these days I'm going to figure it out. What are you waiting for? Right, what are you waiting for? Because I think it's important for us to understand that waiting is an important part of our walk and our devotion with Jesus. And not just with him, but with any relationship. Waiting is an important part of our relationship. You know, in the first chapter of the book of Acts, and if you don't know, the book of Acts really is the launching of the church, right? So the Gospels kind of give this story of Jesus and his life and his message. Acts is a group of people who begin to put that message into play and begin to live that out as a community, as a group of followers, as message bringers, as spreaders of that good news. And so we like to use that as some of our modeling. And one of the very first things that Jesus says to his disciples, right, that after he has been crucified, after he was buried, after he was resurrected, but before he goes to take his place on the right hand of the Father, he goes to his disciples and he tells them this: wait. Just wait. Wait right here. Now, I'm sure that they wanted to do a lot of things. I'm sure their instructions or the thoughts that they were of their instructions that they were going to receive was, here's the people that you go to. Here's the 9-step plan to building this church. Here is the 3 things that you have to get right. Here, if you want to have your personal walk, here's the amount of time you need to spend every day in the Bible. What's amazing is he doesn't tell them any of those things. He tells them to wait. And I think we've spent so much time worrying about those ingredients and listing them up as steps that we've forgotten to wait and just allow that relationship to build. And so my question is, what are you waiting for? Right? For some of us in real life today, we understand waiting. We wait for that yes, right? When I was a kid, we didn't have phones that texted back and forth. And so our texting was notes folded up and passed through other people, right? And you had to be cautious that as you were passing those notes, that you didn't want the teacher to grab it. So you were careful who you passed it to. Girls would pass these notes back and forth with that big question: will you go out with me? And you wanted to make it simple, a yes, no, right? I had some crazy friends who sometimes would put maybe on there, and then they were just left wondering, right? Yes or no. But then you had to wait for that note to make its way back. Or phone calls. Remember those days when phone calls, you'd pick up your phone, you would dial a number, and it would just ring and ring and ring and ring. And there was no answering machine. There was no caller ID. So the person on the other end didn't know to pick up the phone when they got home and call you back. There was none of that. And in fact, sometimes it wasn't ringing. It was just that beep, 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 right? That busy signal. Right? Before call waiting, before you could say, hey, hold on, I got another call. And you would just be stuck waiting to hear that yes or no, waiting to hear that person who would call you back. We wait for our kids to be born, right? That news of I'm pregnant to 9 months later of that time when you finally get to go to the hospital is waiting. But the truth of the matter is that inside of that wait, we become more interested in that yes. When that yes finally comes back, it's more satisfying, it seems. When that child finally comes, it's I've been waiting so long for this. When you stand, at least for me as a guy who stood at the end of an aisle inside of a church building before I was even a Christian, to wait for that girl to come walking down that aisle. Man, I had asked her a year before that stroll. And I had been leading up to it before that. But that wait when it was finally going to be Stephanie and Conrad, that she was going to be my wife, and I wouldn't have wanted it any quicker. That wait allowed my relationship with her to grow to a point where we began to truly be devoted to each other from the onset. And so today, right, while we're waiting for so many other things, and maybe we're excited for so much stuff to happen, or maybe we're waiting for this signal of what we're supposed to do, or instruction from my pastor of what I'm supposed to do during this time. Maybe the best instruction, best advice that I can give to you, whether you're just starting out with your journey with Jesus, or you're wondering what life's taken you, or you've been committed to him for a long time. Maybe the best thing that we can do is follow the instructions that Jesus gave to the apostles. Let's just wait. And I promise you that if you track with me this week, we'll find out that waiting is going to be beneficial, that it's going to be important, that it's going to be hard. I am not a guy who will tell you that following Jesus is easy. It's going to be hard. We're going to mess up. We're going to blow the whole thing up. We're going to fail from the eyes of people who don't know anything about Jesus. We're going to fail from the eyes of those who know everything about Jesus. We're going to do things that aren't right, that don't work. We're going to need to really be devoted to him in order to stick through. And so right now, let's just take a little bit of time and wait. And so if you are a follower of Jesus, waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. It may mean that we spend some time praying, right? Maybe some of us just don't pray enough, don't communicate enough, right? Which, by the way, it might be a good advice for some of us inside of our marriages. This time when you're sitting at home, how about use a little bit of time just to communicate with some of those discussions that you haven't had for a long time. Just share why you love the person that you share a life with. Let them know how much you care about them. Let your kids know how great and how proud you are of them. Even though they're not being shipped off to soccer practice or football practice or baseball practice, and they're not getting the trophies and the awards from anybody else, the best award that they can get is that time that you spend with them. And now we've been given a gift that we get to do that. And so let's, in our waiting, not just be that we don't do anything, but wait so that that relationship can build. And so for those of us who know Jesus, maybe you don't know, maybe this is a time for you to practice and just see what happens if you spend some time talking to God. Spend some time talking to your wife. Spend some time talking to your kids. Spend some time reading the Bible. If you're one of us, right, that reads the Bible, spend some time in the Bible. You have a unique opportunity to go ahead and do that. Spend some time waiting for God to communicate with you. Right? Hey, and while you're waiting, wait with some of your friends. High five them. What we say right now is, though we can't physically high five each other, our high five is reaching out to 5 people this week. And so do that. Phone call, text message. Phone call is the best because we don't do that enough. Let them hear your voice. If you have FaceTime abilities, do that. Let them see your face, see somebody else's. I'm going to give a shout out to Glenna McDonald. I saw her face yesterday on a Zoom town hall meeting, and I just had to stop and say, I'm so glad to see your face. You make me so happy. And so there's going to be some people whose faces you're going to see during this waiting time over video that, man, just reach out to them and say hi. Tell them that you care about them. Tell them that you love them. Let them know that you're thinking about them. Hey, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching this and tracking along with me. If you want to throw a comment down on here later, just let me know what you're waiting for. I'm waiting for ice cream, right? So I know there's some places that are open, but Thursday, Sweet Sensations opens, I think. I think it's Thursday. So I'm going to start walking. So those of you who are who play soccer with me, I will start getting back in shape as soon as that ice cream shop opens and I'm able to walk there. So I may run there and then run back, but I will get an ice cream in between. And so I don't know. It's probably going to kill any work that I do, but I'll be ready to go at some time. Hey, I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. I can't wait to actually give you a high five physically. All right. God bless you. Talk to you later.